Welcome, everybody. We're going to open our meeting call to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. Born and unborn.
I'd like to take a moment of silence for Raymond Wolf, who worked as an arborist and a sign maker in our Public Works Department for many years. All right, thank you, everyone. Next, we have approval of our minutes. First is a motion to approve the July 15th, 2019 regular meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. And a motion to approve the August 5th, 2019 regular meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. We have a presentation from Sergeant Ryan McGovern regarding the Narragansett Citizens Police Academy. So I'm going to have Sergeant McGovern please come to the microphone. I know people have taken advantage of this this academy in the past, so welcome.
Good evening, members of the Town Council, Chief Corrigan, and all those in tonight's attendance. My name is Sergeant Ryan McGovern. I'm here tonight to announce that the Narragansett Police Department will be holding its Citizens Police Academy this upcoming fall. The Citizens Police Academy is a 9-week program that consists of classroom discussions and field demonstrations facilitated by members of the Narragansett Police Department and our partners in the law enforcement community. Participants will be exposed to several topics to include, but not limited to, patrol operations, DUI investigations, accident reconstruction, crime scene investigations, criminal law procedures, motor vehicle stops, use of force, and canine demonstrations. The purpose of the program is to demonstrate and educate the public what it is that the Narragansett Police Department and other law enforcement agencies do on a daily basis. The program is designed to engage dialogue between the participants and the Academy instructors. The program also strives to clarify any misconceptions that the public may have with regards to police and law enforcement practices. The Academy will commence on Wednesday, October 2nd. The Academy classes will be held on Wednesday evenings from 6 to 9 p.m. at the North Beach Clubhouse. The Academy graduation will be held on the first week of December. There is no age requirement. However, if the participants are under the age of 18, they'll need the approval of their parents and legal guardians. The average age of last year's class was 46 years old, ranging from 16 to 89 years of age. All participation in the Academy is completely voluntary. However, active participation is strongly encouraged. Participants will be asked to join in on hands-on activities, ask questions, and to give their input during class. The 2019 Citizens Police Academy flyer and application can be found on the town's website as well as the Narragansett Police Department social media sites. Additional applications can be found in the lobby of the police station. I've also left a couple applications in the back of the room, and I posted a flyer up on the bulletin board. The application deadline is Monday, September 23rd. Please feel free to contact me if you have any questions pertaining to the Citizens Police Academy. My information can be found on the flyer. I encourage those interested in the Citizens Police Academy to submit their applications early as seats for the Academy are limited. And in closing, I'd like to thank the Council and those in attendance for your time and the opportunity to speak on the meeting. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you. All right, next up is our consent agenda. Does anyone have an item they'd like to remove from the consent agenda? All right, hearing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item 5 is a motion to accept the Stanton Foundation grant, which will award the Narragansett Police Department a $25,000 K-9 grant to enable the town to establish a second K-9 unit with a separate skill set from our current K-9.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Anyone from the council? Anyone from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion approved, 5-0. Number 6 is a motion to approve the purchase and installation of equipment for 3 new police vehicles from Patrol Data in the amount of $36,343.64.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Any comments from the council? Anyone from the public? All right, this is equipment for those 3 new vehicles that we had from the last meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Item 7 is a motion to approve the Narragansett Historical Society request to investigate renovation of the Windmill Building on Clark Road, related fundraising, and consideration of a long-term lease with the town for the purpose of establishing a permanent site for the NHS, for the for the Narragansett Historical Society at that location.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. I'm going to call our Parks and Rec Director up to explain this item. I know the Historical Society's been looking for a place, and right now they're in South Kingstown, which is unfortunate. So we're trying to find a place for them to have their, house their goods.
Good evening. So it was a short time ago, back in January, that the Rec Advisory Board and the Parks Department were actually looking to tear this building down. So it's really great to be here before you asking to preserve this building. So we met with the Rec Advisory Board back in June and approved this unanimously to preserve this building and work with the Historical Society. We think it's a great partnership. It's a great site. I think they'd fit well with the area. There's plenty of parking. The Rec Advisory Board and the department have agreed to give the Historical Society 18 months to consider fundraising. They've had ABCOR on the property. They're looking somewhere around $300,000 to renovate the building. We think it's a great fit, and I'd like to bring up Dr. O'Neill and Shirley Eastham to talk about what their future plans are if this is approved by the council.
Welcome.
Thank you. Hello, Town Council members. Many of you know that we've been looking for a permanent home in Narragansett for many years, well, 5 years anyway. And this has been the most probable possible location for us. It's been empty for 2 decades and needs a lot of work. We've had Keith Lescarbeau go through. He said it's structurally sound, but needs a lot of work, cosmetic especially. Dr. O'Neill, Dr. Robert O'Neill, joined our board this spring. He and his wife owned the Dunmere Gatehouse, renovated it, put it on the National Register of Historic Places. Keith Lescarbeau and the entire Historic District Commission have committed to helping us fundraise, plan, and Dr. O'Neill is a very committed person to this project. I'd like to introduce you to Dr. O'Neill.
Welcome.
As a non-resident now of Narragansett, sadly, Linda, my wife, and I have been very committed to the history of Narragansett, and the history of Narragansett needs a home. And the location on Clark Road, first of all, the building is unique. It's 85 years old. Why it was built, we're investigating. We're looking into its origins. It's actually referred to in the town clerk's office as Bosworth's Folly. The idea being is that no one is quite sure why anybody built the building, because it apparently never actually had a windmill on it, even though the building looks like a windmill. So in any case, is that $300,000 is a lot of money. We think it's worthwhile. Narragansett has such a wonderful history. There's a lot of artifacts, there's a lot of legends, there's a lot of materials that need a home. And we hope that the Historical Society can be good neighbors. And certainly the site is very appealing. It's got great parking. It's easy access. It's got a lot of land around it, which is being utilized for recreational purposes. We think it would be very complimentary to the community to have a site location where we could display the history and inform a lot of the newcomers to Narragansett. When we first came to Narragansett almost, almost 50 years ago, there were only several thousand people who lived here. Now we're at 15, 16,000 people. So most of the people really don't know the history of Narragansett. And that's unfortunate because it's a very special place with a wonderful history. So we hope that the town council can support the idea. The devil is in the details, the devil is in the economics, but if we have your support, I think we're off to a good start. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Any comments from the council or questions?
Yeah, I have a question for Steve. Or maybe it would be for Matt, actually, whoever has the answer to it. This vote that we're taking on the motion tonight would only approve the research period for this project, right? We would then vote again if we like the results and we want to move forward with it?
That's correct. This would be for 18 months to give them the opportunity to do research, fundraising, and come back to you with a finalized plan. They would work with the town manager, myself, and the solicitor to come up with a viable plan for this building.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, this is a building that I drive by every morning when I go to the Narragansett Town Camp, drop my daughter off there. And I've always been kind of curious what the background was for the building. And through the years, you could see that it was sort of aging and more mildew on the side of it. So I think it's definitely worth looking into. It seems to be historically significant, at least in terms of the backstory to it. And it makes sense to try to do something with it as opposed to knocking it down. And since the Historical Society is looking for a place, I think it's a great idea.
All right, anyone else from the council? All right, so you would at some point be coming back if the Historical Society would be some kind of lease arrangement, I would anticipate.
Absolutely.
All right, great. All right, anyone want to comment on that? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
I'm going to just abstain because I'm a member of the Historic Society, but I'm very much in favor of the project. And Dr. O'Neill, I offered to you earlier to be able to sit down with the new town manager and work with you and the solicitor on this.
It's a motion approved 4-0. Item number 8 is a motion to approve the purchase of one new trailer-mounted valve exerciser vacuum unit and pressure washer from HP Fairfield LLC using the Massachusetts DOT Master Purchasing Agreement number 60544 in the amount of $60,026.50.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Any comments from the council? Any comments from the public? Questions for the engineer? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Item number 9 is a motion to approve the sale of the space currently occupied by Pier Liquors and 9 parking spaces and the sale of the second floor space of the old Belmont IGA building to DSM Pier Realty LLC for the purchase of $735,000 and to authorize the town of Narragansett to enter into a purchase and sales agreement for the sale of this real estate.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. So tonight we're simply discussing the Pier Liquors attempt to purchase the space it currently occupies and the second floor space above it. So I want to remind everybody that the Pier Liquors portion of this property was not in many of the original conversations regarding the library and the future of the library. This fact is evidenced by the original Gilbane deal, which was for $2.4 million, which was rejected by the former town council in October of 2017. That deal did not include the liquor store space. Pier Liquors became part of a new deal with Gilbane after a hastily thrown together meeting between 2 council members and a Gilbane principal. The hastiness and the recklessness of jeopardizing a well-run local business, Pier Liquors, was troubling to me, and it was a major flaw in the second Gilbane deal. That second Gilbane deal, which was approved by the former town council last year. So tonight I'm hopeful that we can fix that mistake. We've successfully negotiated a selling price well above last year's purchase price of $400,000. This sale will get us out of an arrangement in which we collect rent from a liquor store and will place that property back on the town tax rolls. That's in the town's long-term best interest. It recoups $735,000 of the $2.8 million that was spent from the general fund last year. That also is in the town's long-term interest. It also offloads a portion of the common area maintenance fees, or the CAM fees, that have to be paid to Gilbane year after year. That also is in the town's long-term interest. I've heard some refrains from the advocates of this costly project that the town is losing money every day. I don't know who came up with that tagline, but the town is actually taking in rental income from Pier Liquors that offsets the cost of maintaining those buildings. And now with this, we would be putting it on the tax rolls. What I'm trying to do here is to stop the heavy borrowing that will be made to make the library project a reality. We can fix our existing library at a modest price and forego this unnecessary borrowing. And my goal is to look out for all of the taxpayers. So that's my reasons for this, and I'll open it up to the council, and we'll go from there. Anyone from the council?
No?
Anyone?
You guys?
Or you want
No?
to talk at the end? Okay.
You can start.
All right, well, I guess I'll start. Okay, good evening. For starters, Matt, the original purchase of the liquor store only included the 3,000 square foot first floor space in the basement area. It did not include the 2,500 square foot of the second floor, which, as Mr. Vandermish has pointed out, is no man's land and a disaster, but it seems like we're getting $335,000 for it, so you've been calling this a disaster from day one, so I don't see how it's a disaster. I mean, imagine waiting 40 years, and then we flip it. We'd probably make a lot more money, but anyway, with that said, I want to start out by apologizing to the Manny family and the Pier Liquors for placing them in this precarious situation, actually forcing them to purchase this portion of the Belmont building. Jesse and I wanted to provide a long-term lease, 5-year blocks, up to 20 years, to provide this business stability. And also with a provision of a first right of refusal in the event the building did sell. He would be protected in the lease by having the ability to purchase his space on a first refusal basis. So, but this was rejected by the council. Mannix wanted a sale, desperate for a sale, so desperate for a sale, but it doesn't seem desperate enough to, since January 22nd, to put even a list price, an appraisal, or do any marketing. So he wants to sell it, but he doesn't want anybody to know that it's for sale. So I don't know. 25 years of real estate, I haven't seen that one. So Mr. Manny and the Pier Liquors, they're just trying to, protect their rice bowl. The biggest fear for most businesses is the unknown. And since this purchase of the building by the town of Narragansett, there's been so much misinformation that I can understand their concerns of protecting his business. So, but again, we're putting him in a very precarious situation. You might as well just throw a hornet's nest through the front door. This whole library question is not based on political ideology. There's a new political party in Narragansett. It's the party of narcissism. Both Democrats and Republicans support the library purchase and build out of the Belmont building. This was a plan to change the dynamic of the pier for the next 100 years, not concerning ourselves with the next election or the next 100 days. The short-sightedness is bad for the town. we could provide very easily a long-term lease for that space. I'm hoping, Mr. Manny was here tonight, but I don't see him, that he would retract this offer and demand a long-term lease with a provision of a right to refusal. It's done all the time. It's not off the wall. And this would give him the stability that he needs. So, I don't know, Matt. You keep saying it's a disaster, but you certainly have made it a disaster. Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the council? Could we have, or is there anyone else from the council that would like to speak?
Yeah, all right. So I'd like to start with just some questions about this purchase and sales, the actual official document. As I've been reviewing it and speaking to some people around town and some town staff, I did have a question about the designation of the actual lot that is for sale. So I'm looking at the PNS, and it says Lot 181/1A. And again, I could be wrong, but I want to bring this up and make sure we're thorough here. Based on what I've seen at the town assessor's office and speaking to some people of knowledge in town, the lot that we own is actually 181/1B, not 1A, because 1A is like owned by Gilbane. It's Dunkin' Donuts. There's 3 buildings. So that seems kind of like a big deal.
We're buying the wrong lot. So,
But
at least that's what this says.
So I don't know if there's anyone here from staff that would know about that, or if Mark, if you have. I have a photo of the assessment map of Plat C that shows it as being 1B.
Well, I think the reference to Lot 181/1A is refers to the entire premises. And then the property that the town owns within that entire premises, for this purpose, was set forth, because we haven't condoed anything, is set forth by address. But the Lot 181/1A refers to, as you'll see, is the entire premises, meaning the entire shopping plaza. So we're not trying to sell the entire shopping plaza.
Okay. I mean, it just seems a little bit odd because we could have just specified 1B as the lot that's for sale.
The specific legal description will be affixed to the quitclaim deed when it's conveyed. But I think for purposes here, the space that's being sold is adequately defined.
All right. Thank you for that.
I couldn't get away with that.
It seemed, yeah.
I can't get away with that.
All right. Another question I have would be about just the way that this motion was phrased. So I'm looking at the motion, and it says that we would be selling the space currently occupied by Pier Liquor, 9 parking spaces, and the sale of the second floor space. But then when I look at the PNS, it also includes 3 additional parking spaces. So the motion is very specific about what's for sale, but then it doesn't reference those 3 additional spaces. Is that
Those 3 additional spaces, when with the motion, there was negotiations continuing about how many spaces there would be. So the purchase and sale, that's the reason the purchase and sales agreement's attached, so that the terms are more specific, because the motion has to have
so
the
did it
key
change? It
terms.
changed after you wrote the motion, the PNS?
No, I didn't know how many spots there were when I did the motion.
You don't know how many spots you're selling?
It's in the PNS, 3.
Man, I think you're unprepared here.
3.
I think this agenda item's premature and unprepared.
There's 3 spots. It says it right in the purchase and sales agreement.
All right.
We can have order. This is common. This is the three
Yeah,
spots
this
that are
is-
associated
Yeah, I
with
know.
it.
This is the angry council, this is the angry mob. No, this is the angry council, this is the angry mob. We get it, we get it.
All right, so I'll move on from the specifics of the wording.
It's the 9 plus the Pier Liquors and the 3 plus the second floor.
Okay, thank you. So I'd like to start by, I know most of the people in the room tonight are aware of the consequences of this deal and the effects it would have on any potential library, but I don't know if everyone watching at home is really aware of that, because I've heard different people say, it's not that big a deal, it's just the liquor store, the library wasn't going to go in there anyway. However, what we're really talking about is that second floor space. So whether it's 2,500 square feet, 3,000 square feet, it really depends on the assessment that you're looking at and where you're looking. Based on the field card has it as 3,000 square feet. So why that's significant is because the town really needs to hit a certain square footage for their library, for a new library, in order to receive the 40% reimbursement from the Office of Library Information, or Library and Information Sciences, OLIS. So without hitting that number that's recommended, we don't get the reimbursement. And this project is dependent on that 40%. So if we're going to spend $6 million on a library, we'd be getting back 2.5 or whatever 40% is. Losing this second floor space, which was part of the original deal for $2.4 million, this was done before the liquor store came in, is really a critical change. Initially, the recommendation was almost 25,000 square feet for a library for a town this size. What we acquired was about close to 19,000, and based on what the consultants have said, that would possibly still qualify for the money. But now we're down to 15,000, or 15,900. So at this point, the project would be really in true jeopardy, and it's something that is completely avoidable if we want it to be. We can make a deal with the Pier Liquor that doesn't include that space. There's no reason to have to give up that space and to make this deal, or to make this project
Viable.
Yeah, viable. It becomes not feasible once this space is gone without doing something extremely creative, which, we don't even have those options right now. So that's the reason why we're here talking about this. This isn't just a real estate deal for a liquor store. This involves the library project, something that 5,100 people voted for back in 2016. So that's the importance of this motion right now. But I also want to talk about something that happened last Thursday. So on the morning of Thursday, August 15th, so this was last Thursday, Matt Mannix spoke on the record to the Narragansett Times reporter Phil Cozzolino, and he spoke about the real estate deal that we're here for tonight. He spoke about the price. He also spoke about some additional details of this deal. All of this information was discussed in executive session over the last 3 or 4 months. What it was a one-on-one scheduled interview that Matt conducted with the media before tonight's meeting agenda was ever distributed to his fellow council members. This was also well before it was made available to the general public. The town council nor town staff was given any notice that Matt Mannix would be divulging sealed executive session information to a member of the media before it had gone public. What Matt did in an effort to control and manipulate the story was inappropriate and outside the rules of our executive session that he voted to enter into. There was one bit in the PR stunt that I found noteworthy. Matt stated he was happy with the proposed purchase price of $735,000, stating the town council worked closely with the owners of the liquor store to protect and ensure the future of local business. Worked closely. It's a statement that surprises me. Not once did the town council and the owners of Pier Liquors meet to discuss the property. Not once did the town council and the owners of Pier Liquor have a conference call. Not once did the town council and the owners of the Pier Liquor exchange a group email. 0 direct communication, not even once. So I'm not sure why he'd say we worked closely in an article. We still don't even know how PR Liquors intends to use the second floor space. Now I'd like to move on and comment a little bit on the summary that's attached to this motion. I know the truncated agenda circulates through town. It doesn't always include the summary. You can look for the summary if you're interested, but it is really telling, and it's been telling, I think throughout this term when it's come to library motions. So when reading it, all you can really do is kind of shake your head in amazement that it was written by the town council president. The summary, written by Matt Mannix, displays a level of emotional immaturity that is both embarrassing and disappointing. It's fueled by personal bias, as well as misleading and false statements.
Actually, I'm going to read the
Here are
statement.
a few-
I'm going to read
I'm about
this.
to read it right now.
I'm,
Excuse me, I'll
I'm
finish
going to
up.
read my own statement.
Matt,
It's
you
my
can read it
statement.
you can read it when you speak. I'm going to speak about it.
I'm going to read the statement. I'm not going to let you characterize. Sean, you're going to be removed if you can't behave yourself. It's my motion.
Matt, you
it's
can
my
read-
summary. I'm going to read
And you'll have a chance
my
to
motion.
speak, and
okay?
you can read it.
All right, I'll read it. I'll read
It's
it.
mine.
I'll read it.
It's not for you. I don't know who you think you are.
I can't read.
No,
I can't
you,
read an
it's
agenda.
mine. You just characterized it before you read it.
can read it when you
you talk about a PR stunt. You are a PR stunt. That's a PR stunt.
So-
all right. So I'll read the motion so the whole public can hear it.
And I'll
all
read
right?
it again.
DSM Realty LLC has offered.
Sean, can you please call order to the
Yeah,
chamber,
we got to
please?
call order. They can't behave.
Ladies and gentlemen, please
Show them.
Please refrain,
Show the
please.
mob. There they
please
are.
refrain.
Show them. Show them. Show them. It's my motion. Is that for him to read in editorialize my words? So, DSM Realty, Pierre Realty LLC has offered to purchase the Pierre Liquors.
Sean, can you please call order?
Ladies and gentlemen, listen. Let him read. Jesse will read. You'll have your opportunity for your comments up at the podium. Let's take this. He will.
It's my summary. It's my summary.
Matt, go ahead. Go ahead and read it.
I'm glad to read
Tell him
it.
to read. Just let him do it.
DSM Pierre Realty LLC has offered to purchase the Pierre Liquors property in the second floor area of the old IGA Belmont building from the town of Narragansett. Accepting this offer allows the town to fix a major mistake made by the prior town council. The town never should have purchased this or any liquor store in the first place. The purchase of this liquor store was abruptly added to the deal to purchase the old IGA Belmont building by the prior town council. The town bought the liquor store portion of that property for $400,000. This purchase allows a successful business to secure its future in the town. It provides the town with funds to defray the $2.8 million hole in the town's finances that was created by the prior town council. The buyer has agreed to pay $735,000, which is significantly more than the $400,000 the town spent to buy Pierre Liquors last year. This purchase also includes a second floor above Pierre Liquors, space that currently has little value to the town. It also provides opportunities for Pierre Liquors to expand its business. This sale corrects a major error made by the prior council, protects the local business's future, and recoups $735,000 to the town's general fund. So now you can characterize my motion and summary all you want.
Great.
Go
Thank you,
ahead.
Matt. Appreciate it. So let's get into some of those statements in that summary. Accepting this offer allows the town to fix a major mistake made by the prior town council. This is a summary, which should be an objective summary of the motion. That's a subjective statement. The town should never have purchased this or any liquor store in the first place. The purchase of this liquor store was abruptly added to the deal. A misleading statement. The town hasn't purchased a liquor store. They didn't acquire a business. There was no transfer of ownership of an LLC or any other business entity. They bought a property that they lease to a business. The town council president is either unable to articulate or is intentionally misleading the public with his words. The buyer has agreed to pay $735,000, which is significantly more than the $400,000 the town spent to buy the Pierre Liquors last year. true and misleading because we're selling them twice the amount of square footage. This purchase also includes the second floor above Pier Liquor's space that currently has little value to the town. Again, subjective and not really true. The second story is 300 square feet of open space that could be utilized for the library, for administrative offices, or with the addition of an elevator, could be a conference room or a program room. So what I've just read is 4 unproven, misleading statements from the council president in his motion summary. This is the sort of diatribe that is beneath the council and should not have been published as is in the first place.
The summaries for our motions are opinions. They're opinions supporting the motion. That's what a subjective statement is. Those are my opinions, and I'm allowed to express them in my summary.
So
At
now-
8 o'clock, we have our public hearings. We'll come back to this discussion. So we have 2 items for 8 o'clock. A motion to schedule a public hearing on an application from Westlakes LLC to amend the zoning map to modify the limitation on uses for the property at 707 Point Judith Road, Plat Y4, Lot 4, Zone BB and R80.
So moved.
Is there a second? Discussion, what is our scheduled date, first scheduled date we're looking at? All right, so this will be scheduled for October 21st at 8 p.m. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. And a motion to refer the matter to the planning board for a recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. And so we return to item 9. Are there any other comments from council members?
All right, so now let's talk about if this is a good deal for the town or not, financially. In 2018, the town bought the entire 22 square foot building for $2.8 million, which comes out to $126 per square foot for the entire building. So in this deal we're talking about tonight, a selling price of $735,000 for the basement, first floor, second floor, and now it turns out to be 12 parking spaces in total. That's 6,080 square feet in all. I'm basing that off the town assessment. We can say maybe it's in the 5,000s, but the numbers I have are 6,080 square feet for the ground level and the upstairs. We'd be selling this at $120 per square foot. So doesn't sound so bad, very slight loss. Seems like an okay deal. But, what's up? I'm not counting it.
No, right.
I'm counting the first level and the second level. Yep. So, but let's take a look at the recent town assessment. So we haven't been able to get an appraisal, which seems strange, but we do have the town assessments. So from 2014 to 2017, this entire property, 22,000 square feet, parking, all of it was assessed for just under $3.8 million. So that's $171 per square foot. In 2018, that assessment went down, maybe just based on the market. But this was before the town bought the building. So in 2018, the assessment was $3.4 million. So a little bit lower than the 3.8, but still much higher than 2.8. And that's $153 per square foot. So why are we selling town property
Below assessment.
for $120 per square foot when it's assessed at minimum at $153 per square foot?
That's a good question.
It doesn't seem to make much sense. So the last thing I'll talk about is what can we do with Pier Liquors to make them happy, make library supporters happy, and continue to invest in business and in the community at the same time. Patrick brought up a great point. A long-term lease is something that would give them the security and the protection that they're looking for. And it's interesting because in January, before we had any executive sessions on this real estate, we received an offer from Pier Liquor stating that they would love to get into a long-term lease. And that didn't happen, and I'm sure you can guess why. So that is something they were interested in and can happen. There's 2 people right here that will vote for that to happen. So that is something that's very realistic. It would give Pier Liquor what they want and keep the library as a feasible project. Another option would be, if you want to get a little bit creative, the current library. So that is real estate with a lot of frontage on a main road on a corner with more parking than you would have at the current Pier Liquor, even with the 12 spots.
Right.
That's 9,000 square feet. It could be divided. You could divide it into 6,000
Yeah.
and 3,000.
Yep.
If Pier Liquor is looking for office space, if they're looking for a tasting room, it's all in one story. It's not awkward space that you have to walk up to or put an elevator into. It would be a better space. I think pretty much everyone would agree. I think they would agree.
Road frontage.
Yeah,
There's
road frontage. Better space than what this deal is about. And that's something that we could also discuss. The key to this is actually working closely, meeting Pier Liquor with the full council and talking about how they can be part of this community with the library supporters or with the community as a whole. They've always been a good business here. The blame doesn't go to them, but there has to be a way to make this work that makes everyone happy and doesn't, put something that people have been waiting over a decade for in jeopardy. So I do plead with the owners of Pier Liquor to put this on hold, to think about this, and if you are willing to sit down and talk, I think we can make something happen that would make everybody happy. Thank you.
Good. Yeah, you got to stand out there.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the council? Rick and Joe.
Yeah, I'm going to say one more thing.
Well, you spoke once, so we'll come
I
back.
can speak
But
again.
Ricky wants to speak.
Oh,
so,
all right, okay. All right, I think he was going to speak.
So we heard about leasing tonight, long-term lease. Sure everybody in this room would like to change their properties over to long-term lease, right? Why not? That's what you're doing with the liquor store. They're an established business, 13 years.
And they've been on
Order. Let him finish his
Let me
statement.
speak.
Sean.
Next person that speaks out, I want him removed,
Yes.
okay?
I want the town sergeant to be
Hold on a
looking.
second. Hold on a second.
I
I'm
want
not
them
going to remove
removed.
people.
I'm
So-
going to speak.
Ladies and gentlemen, just listen to me for a minute here. A lot of people have different opinions on both sides. Both sides have the right to be heard. So just wait for your turn. When someone's speaking, even if you don't agree with them, just wait. You're going to have your opportunity to speak, so let them speak, please.
This business has been established for 13 years plus, family business. And what you want to do is tell them you're going to be under a lease when they can have ownership. Have you ever been in a business with lease? I have. And they call it ass over the barrel business. You're at the hands of the people that own the lease. You don't have ownership. There's no guarantees. You think there's guarantees, but there's not. Unless you've been there, you don't know. These people are purchasing the building, I'm happy for them. Family business, long-term. Their children will be able to move on, and maybe their children. Let's get back to some of the questions that Jesse asked about the amount of space that's needed to build a library. This all goes back to OLIS, and it goes back to, I've mentioned it before, a plan. The size of the plan determines how much space you need. We can make a plan for 40,000 square feet. Can the town afford it? I doubt it. Now let me read something that hasn't been brought up, all right, from the laughter. Construction reimbursing funding of properties. The construction costs are eligible for 50% reimbursement of expenditures up to the amount of $300 per square foot for new construction. So on a new facility, OLIS will give you $300 per square foot. $250 per square foot for renovation and remodeling. Renovation, remodeling. That funding is also available for the existing library. And if anybody wants to question that, bring Karen Miller in here and throw that question at her, because nobody has brought that up. We will get funding for redoing the existing building, up to $250 per square foot. Nobody wants to bring that portion of it up. You can build a new facility up by the community center for probably a third of the money. It doesn't have to be 20,000 square feet. This town cannot afford 20,000 square feet. We can be conservative, 12, 14,000 square feet. We can share some of the resources with the community center and work together. But people choose not to do that. It's all right for the rest of this town to work together and use each other's resources and be together. But the library people don't want to do that. You want to hold a meeting here, and if you get 300 people, you want to put it at the high school. Fine. Why can't you have movie night at the high school? Because you don't want it. You don't want it. You only want what you want. Well, there's a lot of people out there that don't want this project. 5,100 people did vote, but not 5,100 people voted for the Belmont building. And for the 7,200 people that didn't vote at all, I'm not excluding them as voting taxpayers in this town. They have a right as well. And if they didn't vote for this bond, maybe they didn't want it, but maybe they did, but they're also entitled to their opinion. So I'm for the liquor store, and I'm going to support them. I'm glad they're buying the building, and I'm glad they're going to continue to run their business.
So I
Jill.
really just have to make a correction.
Jill,
on
Jill,
something that-
does Jill want to speak? Okay.
something that Ricky said about the $250 per square foot reimbursement. They don't give that to every project, so that's not something we would get. There's a specific building program that the library has to adhere to, and that includes the square footage. If you don't hit that program, those numbers, then you don't qualify for the reimbursement. It's not just build a 5,000 square foot library and you're going to get $250 per square foot reimbursed. You have to stick to the guidelines in the program, and we wouldn't be doing that in this case. So that's why it's important to keep that square footage available to the library.
Like I said, the square footage is based on the plan. You put a plan out there for 14,000 square feet, that's what they'll base it on.
Well, Ricky,
That's what they'll base
It's
it
not.
on. Believe
The
me.
oldest money reimbursement is not a guarantee, just so everyone knows that. It's
Council-
talked about like it's a guarantee. It's
We
not
know
a
it's not a guarantee because we don't have enough square footage.
It's not a guarantee for any library project.
Councilman Lima, you were in support of the Belmont project before the election.
When was I, Patrick?
You sat down and
Never.
broke bread
Never.
with several people that I
Never.
know. You spoke to people.
Never.
You supported the Belmont
Never.
project, the purchase and the
Never.
build-out.
You didn't see my name on vote for the...
Well, you showed up when we bought the building. You were
Yeah,
taking
I showed up because if 5,100 people voted for it, there are about 150 people in the parking lot. So that tells you something.
There was a peer residence
That tells you a
association.
lot.
There was a neighborhood associations forum during the campaign. There was a question about the library project. The question was, as a town council member, would you support this project? And it was a multiple choice. The options were, I want a state-of-the-art library. I'll support it at whatever cost. I would support the most cost-effective solution to complete the project. There was, I do not support the project, and I would repeal the purchase. Ricky Lima chose most cost-effective manner to complete the project. Same as me, same as Susan,
You're right.
same as Pat.
You're exactly right.
That doesn't mean not doing the project.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
I support the best library that this town
That was a
has.
That was what I said.
I went publicly in the newspaper with it, Jesse.
Exactly.
Read the newspaper.
You said repeal. You're repealing the project.
I support the best library that the taxpayers of this town can afford.
All right.
So
All right? That's what I support.
we're discussing,
That's
first
what
of
I've been
all,
on board with.
Peer Liquor's piece of this and what was done in the campaign, and the people had opinions in the campaigns, and in the end, it was a multiple choice question that you're forced to pick one of the solutions. So some people
So
put
just
different things.
pick
So-
the one you don't believe in, I guess.
Well, that's not what he did. He just explained to you. See, this is what happens, is people explain their position, and then it's distorted by
No,
the angry.
it's not distorted.
And you rile them up, and you rile them up.
People are
That's
sick
what
of the
happened.
BS, and we know that someone's not telling the truth.
Phil, I hope you
So-
redo that article that you did where I said, I support the best library that the taxpayers can afford.
After the election.
That's what I did.
That was
And
the
I even
article.
said that at the library forum when I was interrupted and I had my 3 minutes.
So let's stick to the
let's
motion,
stick
which
to the
is,
motion,
Let's get
which
to
is
the motion and move
benefits
on.
of purchasing is the sale of this portion of this property. That's where we are. So the council members have all weighed in different ways, except you haven't. Do you?
I just want to say that you know, I obviously was not for the purchase of this property, but I do not believe now that we own it that the town should either rent or own a liquor store operation. It also should be noted that the liquor license for this store is tied to the pier. So any type of moving them to another location, you'd be actually having someone change their business and lose their business, and that's just not fair.
Well, all right. I gotta. All right, Ricky, as far as the Pier Liquor Store and they lease, they've been leasing from Gilbane for 13 years, correct? If they can, I mean, you know, according to Mannix, Gilbane Properties is the devil themselves. So if they can handle leasing from the devil, I think they can handle a 20-year lease from the angels of the town of Narragansett.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yep, we're angels, all right.
well, we used to be. So the other
I'd
thing
rather
is,
own.
let's talk about the
ownership.
election. Everybody keeps bringing up the election, and
Ownership.
then people just don't know what they're voting for. They don't understand. It doesn't matter. There was a bond initiative, and it said, do you support a $5.8 million for a new library?
Can we
I don't
stay on
care
the
where
motion
it
of
is,
the liquor
all right?
store,
Let me finish my statement. In any election, even in presidential elections, only 50% of the voting public show up. If the other people don't show up, well, sorry, you didn't show. So the true numbers are 68% of the voting public supported this project. They voted for a library and not libations. And Matt, I got a question for you. I've been up here 4 years, and the few agenda items you seem to put on always turn into some kind of lawsuit, okay?
Patrick,
Colonel
stand-
John Gardner, I've been in
That's
the
not true. That's not true.
The Colonel John Gardner, the
That's
Edge
true.
Realty.
Patrick,
Now we got the
stay on the
sale of the
motion.
Belmont Liquor Store.
I didn't put Edge Realty on.
Yeah, well, it
Yeah.
turned into a lawsuit because
Patrick,
of your
stop
effort.
trying to incite.
So you're trying
Can't
to
do it.
incite, Patrick, and what the whole thing about the
Colonel John Gardner was on
2016 to
lawsuit?
2018, the whole 2016 to 2018 dynamic was, which I have said many, many times, is what I thought was people's opinions were shifting on the issue. That's what I was hearing from the public. And so what happened in that election was that the Belmont Ford did not win in 2018.
Then why did you come in last place? You didn't even place in the peer in the election.
The opinions did shift in the town from the 5,100. People had doubts about the project that was hastily pushed through. There were doubts that were grown. So that's
Sean,
what
can you please
happened.
order?
So in the end, I've commented on it many times. I mean, I don't understand why there's the attack on me. I have my position. You changed. Well, you can laugh all you want. I said repeal the deal in the campaign. It wasn't a mystery. You all knew it. Lori Kelly put out an email to all the Board of Trustees and everybody explaining that I would have done that. So it was a very clear campaign. The campaign's over. We have a motion in front of us. If we want the merits of this particular sale of the existing Pier Liquor space and the second floor. All right, so if anyone
Matt.
from the council wants to talk to that, but we're going to narrow this discussion to that, and the same for the public. We all got to go down memory lane with the election. That's over.
Well, I don't know why
Okay.
you voted for the library and
So-
the pier, and then you cut the funding. I mean, I think your whole plan was
Stay.
build the library on the
Thank you,
vine,
Patrick.
let them be
Thank you.
self-supported, and the town of Narragansett wipe their financial hands of the library. I think that was your plan from back in 15.
I'm glad you're a mind reader. Thank you. All right, anyone from the public? Nancy.
Nancy DiNuccio, 8 Vanderbilt Drive. So I oppose the sale of the building to the Pier Liquors. I'm very disappointed for our community that the majority of the town council, and by that I mean Lima, Lawler, and President Matt Mannix, have ignored the will of the people by entertaining buyers for this building that had been purchased for our library. We feel disenfranchised, all of us feel disenfranchised by your blatant disregard for the overwhelming vote in 2016. Your actions have been nothing more than vindictive and hateful since getting into office last November. Your words, Matt, in your summary statement about the sale further indicate your misplaced disdain for the previous council's 10-year diligent research and action to fulfill the wishes of the residents by purchasing the Belmont building, including the space now occupied by Pier Liquors. You've expressed over and over for the past 8 months how annoyed you have been by Jesse and Patrick putting motions on the agenda that have a link to the library issues. But how different is it that you would undo a well-thought-out plan created over 10 years to move and improve our library? You've ignored the state mandates regarding the multiple waivers that have been granted to keep the present library open. You've ignored them. How long do you think the state will continue to do that? At the rate we're going, we will eventually have our library closed by the state, and there will be no one to blame but you three. We will not forget it. But you three are in control, and we, the people, are impotent, and that is not how good government should run. I again say, we will not forget.
Thank you. Wynn.
Matt,
Name and address, and please keep it to the Pier Liquors portion of the property on the second floor.
Be more than happy to. Wynn Hames, 30 Wood Avenue.
Thank you.
Narragansett, Rhode Island. First of all, I want to agree with Patrick that we do live in a democracy, and people go to the polls and people vote, and the results of those votes are usually what the people want in this country. Second, I'm very disappointed in the decision to sell. I'm very disappointed in the way it's happened. There's been no appraisal of the building for us to know how much exactly it is worth. There's been no inspection of the building. It's been a mess. And for the $735,000, I don't think that's enough for the property itself. So I'd like to offer you, because you haven't advertised, nobody's been able to talk to anybody about the purchase of the building. It's all been in secret. Apparently, you're the only one that's been negotiating. Apparently, the rest of the council hasn't. So I'd like to offer you $800,000 for that piece of property. You can have a deposit. You can have a deposit as of tomorrow. You can have a lawyer written, everything done. You have financials within 72 hours.
Thank you. Ms. Fortin. Mrs. Fortin.
Sorry, with all the clapping, I didn't hear you, Matt. I had asked this council before to do an appraisal. Oh, I'm sorry. I just assumed she knew who I was, sorry. Carol Fortin, 10 Cross Road, Narragansett. I did ask you to do an appraisal on the building, so we were not underselling it. I did a little research. I'm not a realtor, and I surely would hope the two realtors here would vote this down. This is prime realty property in the middle of the pier. It's not hidden by other stores. So I came up with probably a price of between $300 and $500 per square foot at a prime location. 3,000 square feet for the liquor store at $500 per square foot, 1.5 mil. 2,950 upstairs, usable space, 1.475. I didn't figure in the 12 because I thought there were only 9 parking spaces, but I assumed that those prime parking spaces in the pier are worth about $50,000. So 50,000 times 9 is 400,000. 450, excuse me. So if we take the 1.475, we add that up, that's 2,975. And that seems to be pretty close to what Jesse, and I didn't know that, but pretty close to what you talked about a little while ago. So subtract and then add the 450, so that's 3.425 total value. Let's subtract the 335 that we all think is a good deal. How much are we as taxpayers losing? We are losing 2.690. That's the loss, the financial loss to the taxpayers with that $735,000 deal. Please go back and do an assessment. Prove me wrong, because you are wrong at 735. Thank you.
Thank you. Gloria.
Gloria Roman, 33 Wheatfield Cove Road. All Narragansett taxpayers and voting residents, please listen carefully. Mr. Mannix, in your summary of this motion, second paragraph, you state, the buyer has agreed to pay $735,000, which is significantly more than the $400,000 the town paid for the liquor store. What you failed to state in your motion and in the August 16th Narragansett Times article is that the $400,000 that the town paid was for a 3,000 square foot liquor store and 9 parking spaces. Now the P&S says there is an additional 3,000 square foot, which includes the usable second floor, 2 stairways, 2 bathrooms, a closet, and the area housing the HVAC system for the entire building, plus 3 more parking spaces. So the entire package is being very well undersold by you 3. This is, Mr. Mannix, this is another one of your skewed rationalizations that do not show the true finances of the deal. So I wonder how Mr. Mannix, Ms. Lawler, and Mr. Lima could believe that you made a good deal for the town and are fiscally responsible, when in fact the deal is totally fiscally irresponsible to the taxpayers of Narragansett. And you 3, not the proposed library project, you 3 are bleeding the town's finances. Mr. Mannix, in the August 16th Narragansett Times interview, you state that the liquor store pays $48,000 or $4,000 per month rent, which dispels the rumors that we are losing money every day in reference to a common criticism of the people in the angry mob. Another example of your skewed rationalization and incorrect financial figures. You claim that the $4,000 monthly rent does cover the interest lost each month, and that has for the money taken out of the town reserve and the monthly CAM fees. But the reality is that your figures are not true. You had called the $5.8 million, if you had called the $5.8 million bond in November and given the library the square footage required by the state in order to receive $2 million in state reimbursement. And Mr. Lima, Karen Miller did tell you that the present library will not qualify for reimbursement. So you know that she told you that. And the $3 million expected from corporate and private donors.
Thank you. Your time's up. Thank you.
And Karen Miller did say that under the conditions that the building is in right now.
You are misquoting.
Renovation.
You are misquoting what Karen
Please
Miller
return.
told you twice.
So I'm going to, though, there's something that happened there that's important to note. So Ms. Stewart read. Ms. Stewart read my motion, read the summary that I would use to support my motion, in which I put, the buyer has agreed to pay $735,000, which is significantly more than the $400,000 the town spent to buy Pier Liquors last year. The next sentence she neglects to put in or read. I say, this purchase also includes the second floor above Pier Liquors. So this is the selective cherry picking that's going on by the Library Board of Trustees and by their supporters. It's right there. They purposely, they act like I said, this is the trade-off. I say right there it includes the second floor. So this is in there, but it's this selective cherry picking that's done, and it is disgusting. And I've been called by people who say I'm vindictive. I can't be vindictive toward a building. You can't be vindictive toward a building. There's nobody in this room that I'm vindictive toward. Okay, you can't. So thank you. Well, I wanted to clear the record. Thank you, Mr. DeStefano.
Thank you. Ted DeStefano, 94 Colonel John Gardner Road. Excuse me. I've been asking for a long time in articles I sent to the Narragansett Times, et cetera, for what a prudent person would do in a case like this, in a sale like this liquor store. They would get an appraisal from a qualified appraiser so that everybody would know that nothing secretive in executive session, Matthew, is happening, that it's all out in the open. We've got a bona fide appraisal and a bona fide value. Never happened. Never happened. And we find out that the executive session rules have been broken by Matthew Mannix.
It's not accurate.
Well, it was in the paper, so you'd have to defend it. So I would just say, and then you've got a buyer here, Mr. Hames, who will pay more than what the liquor store wants to pay. So for council people, you've got, to me, I'm not an attorney, but you have legal exposure, personal legal exposure. If you don't take a higher price, then you're selling the town's assets for less than real value, and you should be held accountable, and you should be held accountable. Thank you.
Either one.
Lily Weiss-Nessover, 5 Judith Avenue. I'd like to start by asking a question. There are 8 liquor stores from Narragansett to Wakefield, and you say the reason we need an expansion to a current is because we'll get money back and improve the Narragansett economy. Is this true?
Please make your statement. Okay.
So, you're telling me that money is more important than education, that you need to find anyone to fill the space to make us be quiet is more important. If money is so important, why not take the offer of $800,000? Shame on you, Matthew Mannix. From a 15-year-old high school student, shame on you. The town you're a part of, the town you're representing is in the dark. These are not transparent sales. You have done every single thing in your grasp to try and sell this building, and you do it with no one else viewing. Matthew Mannix, were you on the previous town council?
You know that just please make your statement. This is not this is
You speak poorly of them. Can you tell me how the taxpayers will be in favor of this if 68% of registered voters, taxpayers, did not vote in favor of alcohol distribution? We voted for a new library. I go to Narragansett High School, and trust me, the young people, we want it. We can't vote, but we'd rather have a new library down the street of our school than a large liquor store. We want our library. We praise the supporters as well as Jesse and Patrick. I'd like to close by saying there are solutions. They've been named. There are other solutions to the family establishment lease issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have Rachel Weiss-Smith, 5 Judith Ave. I have a few statements and a question which apparently can't be answered, but maybe it can by someone. I've been teaching my children all along that you forfeit your right to complain about things or to an opinion about political matters unless you show up or vote. So that's my statement on that. In terms of your statements, you are our elected leader. You're the leader of this board, you're the leader of this town. If you publicize your opinions, they should be based on facts and not on misleading statements that can confuse the public to think something else. We're relying on you as our leader for accurate information. And my final question is, I'm just wondering, I guess I should state, I support Pure Liquors as an establishment. I've been going there for 20 years. I would like to keep going there. I'm sure a lot of us want to keep going there. And we'd like to find a solution, like Jesse said, that can help everybody and keep people feeling good about that establishment and not cast it in a negative light that's going to last. I'm curious about the zoning. I'm wondering if the zoning of that second floor is already zoned for liquor sales. I don't know if you can answer that or if someone can answer that. It is already zoned for liquor sales? The second floor specifically.
The zone changed in October, just to answer that, to the public zone.
So it doesn't need to go through any further zoning to sell liquor there? Or will it come before the zoning board? It will come before the zoning board.
It could.
If it goes before the... Can we know when that date will be so we can show up?
Oh, I'm sure you'll find out.
Because I know trying to get my business in town, people turned out to try to keep me from opening my thing, so I know we can do the same thing. So,
Rachel, one note about that. So this is the urban renewal zone, the Pier Marketplace.
Yep.
And the interesting thing about that is that the town council has full authority to override any zoning or planning decisions. So it would ultimately come to this council.
Okay.
So
I see. And I guess one last question I have is why, I might have missed something. I'm wondering why it's not an option to sell Pure Liquors where they're in now and not include the second floor. Because that seems like a very viable option that would keep Pure Liquors happy establishment in town and keep everyone feeling good about Pure Liquors and still allow us to move forward with a viable plan for the library there. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard.
Yeah, Richard Vangermersh, 55 Osceola. I like to say something that will turn everybody off. And one thing was, I asked for a mediator, I didn't get one, but I did say in an article in the local paper, if I were an arbitrator, what I would do. And I say those who want to get rid of that second floor, hallelujah. This is a total waste. And you really have to go up to see, as you said, Matt, how inaccessible it is. Plus, this takes away cost of an elevator, which I think would destroy the entire structure. But on the other side, I still believe if you look at cubic square feet, the IGA store could work out as a library because you go beyond the 8 or 9 feet, which is in a usual library. This is a unique structure, and if you look at it as cubic square feet, it becomes a little more interesting. So I again ask for mediation for the 15,500 square feet, because I believe people of goodwill could come up with a very adequate library in there. And I could see an auditorium perhaps going up 15 feet, because you can do it. You can't in a regular library do it because the ceiling is there. So I think if we try some ceiling thinking, we might, through mediation, through a new open process, we could work something out. I'm not giving up, but again, if I were an arbitrator, I would say, thank God you're saving the liquor store. Thank God you're not touching that second floor. And I ask everyone to go up to that second floor. And if you think that is accessible, wow. And if you think that is finished, wow. If you think it's usable, wow, do you have to have your head examined?
My name is Hillary Salk. I live in Surfside. I live right there where the marketplace used to be. I am a big library goer. I've written a novel partly in that library. My husband and I use it almost daily. It is a form of community, which is one of the things that I've read that, Mr. Mannix, I don't understand why you don't get that, but that's okay. I hope you can answer that at some point. In addition, I have been a broker of real estate for 25 years. I no longer practice, thank goodness. I was trained in negotiation at Harvard Law School in a program of negotiation. I wonder if you would answer this one question. Why have you not been willing to have a negotiator deal with this complex, burning issue for so many of us? Can you answer me?
Just make your statement on what you.
Will you ever answer it? Can I ever talk to you and ask you that question?
Why don't you? We can talk. We can have plenty of conversation.
I do not have any objection to the peer market. Excuse me, to the peer liquor store. I do think that they would probably make a much more sane economic decision to rent this with a guarantee of renewal every 5 years for 20 years. There is no way that a good, sound agreement on rental can be broken. Now, I do feel that there are lots of options to be looked at, but we have not been allowed to really have that kind of open discussion where we as citizens can say, okay, there are some things that you may have a point about. But one thing, since the purchase of that building, I am a taxpayer. I own that building. I do not want to see that building go for less than what we paid for it. I do not want to see us have a library that will not get funded through the state method. I do feel there is money to be had from private resources. I do understand the importance of being a smart council member in terms of saving us from having an increase in our taxes, although I think we could afford a small increase, most of us. So I just do not understand how this has become such a fiasco. And it is a fiasco. And I am not rude, and I will not condemn you, Mr. Mannix, for what you are doing, although I do see some flaws in what you have done.
Thank you.
I do believe
We're over the time. Thank
that you may want to win too much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Vicki Crowningshield, 40 Birchwood Drive. So I could stand up here and spit out a whole bunch of facts and figures to you, appeal to your senses, whatever. I know it's going to fall on deaf ears, but I wanted to speak on this because the Pier Liquor piece is basically killing the library deal, so that's why I'm speaking on this. And I just wanted, you guys are not entitled to have your point of view eclipse that of the electorate just because you hold office. Your egos, I know, although big, do not rule Narragansett. Your closed-mindedness only serves to undermine our success as a town. Your attempts to silence only serve to fuel discontent. Your name-calling and gossip-mongering, and yes, I'm speaking to you, only reflect your lack of leadership skills. As elected officials, you do not just serve those who voted for you. You do not just serve those who agree with you. You serve all the people who live in your district. Your self-worth should not be tied to the title of your position. Your position should not be for settling scores. All of this false pride is a scourge on this community, and I hope someday...
This is a little bit off topic. Are we talking about the Pier Liquors, or is it just going to be where gossip mongers, where closed-minded? What else do you have in there? It's just a bunch of personal attacks. I mean, how would always stay on whether it's a good deal or
I think
not?
she might have a few more.
But that's what you guys like to do. It's very clear. I mean, it's very clear that's what you do.
You can't disenfranchise...
Narcissistic.
You can't disenfranchise voters.
Patrick, they're not disenfranchised.
So yes, you are, Matt.
It's the definition of disenfranchisement.
It's really not. It's a motion to authorize It was a vote to authorize borrowing.
Well,
that was what it was, and that's people need to know that. Okay?
Semantics.
So we'll give you an extra minute because you were interrupted, but go ahead. But let's stay on the point of Pier Liquors.
Yes, Pier Liquors and the library deal and your guys' how you are dealing with it is what I'm speaking to. And I just hope that you guys wake up and you realize that you guys are not better than or less than. And you are elected to serve the people, not yourselves. And we want the library. We don't want an upstairs office for the liquor store, which is what we're voting on right now, right? So by moving forward with this self-serving, prideful, short-sighted campaign to repeal the library deal, you only serve to epitomize terrible leadership. If you are looking to be remembered, you will be. And you may succeed in what you aim to do, but you've united the rest of us in our love for the library.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Yeah. No, him. Yeah.
Hi, Stephen Bellis, 8 Baldwin Court. Tonight, I am once again asking each of you to sign a conflict of interest statement, affirming that you or any member of your family, business associates, employers, or businesses you represent.
Is this on the topic? Stick with the topic.
Stick to the topic.
Are not benefiting financially or materially, directly or indirectly, from the sale of the future library building, known as the Belmont Building, in whole or in parcel. I'm asking you this because we, the people, no longer trust the majority of our town council. Because the sale of the Belmont Building has been shrouded in such secrecy, it allows the mind to wander and to guess at possible scenarios that are driving this lack of transparency. It makes one think that the sale of the space occupied by the Pier Liquor Store and second floor of the Belmont building is just an intermediate step that divides the property, making it less attractive and inadequate for renovation and use as a library. It makes one wonder how the town council arrived at a DSM Peer Realty purchase price of $735,000, well above what the town purchased it for, making it appear to be a real deal. For the record, the previous town council did not buy a liquor store. It bought the space that is currently occupied and leased by a liquor store. So President Mannix, your statement that the town should never have purchased this or any liquor store in the first place is simply absurd. 2 weeks ago, the town solicitor was asked, is it legal to sell the Belmont building with no listing price? His response, well, it's not illegal. Yeah, but is it ethical, knowing everything that we know and the history and the fight for this library? This is exactly why we want each of you to sign a conflict of interest statement. Quite frankly, I don't know why you are not required to do so at the time you are sworn into office. You may say that I am part of an angry mob, a term used all too often by people in power who have something to hide. But actions speak louder than words. And the way you have conducted yourselves over the past 8 months is not transparent and it's not above board. The overwhelming majority of voters voted for a new library, but the vocal minority, special interests, many of them invisible, are determined not to see this through. If it doesn't benefit them directly, they are against it. Some community we have here, not. All that you've managed to do is to put a stain on this community. The town of Narragansett has a big giant stain on it now. In closing, Rhode Island State Code of Ethics, Title 36, Chapter 14, Section 6 provides that public officials and employees must file a statement of conflict of interest or recusal form concerning matters where he or she may have a conflict of interest in the discharge of his or her official duties. So I ask you once again, will each of you sign a conflict of interest statement prior to approving this sale? And if not, why?
Thank you. Thank you. We sign conflict of interest statements. We recuse ourselves. Do you not want to hear the facts? Keep clapping. Go ahead. I mean, do you not want to hear the facts? Instead of the accusation in a place where people are innocent until proven guilty, that was thrown out, the Salem, what we had right there. What happens is when we have an interest, we recuse ourselves. And I know there's been items I've recused myself on, and that's what our duty is. I know there's other people on the board who have done the same. That's the duty. But it's not for each and every deal that's in front of us. It's just not done. And I think I've made it clear that I'm not making any financial gain on this property. Yes, Carlene.
Thank you. Carlene Town, 240 Wood Hill Road. I voted for a bigger library, not a bigger liquor store. I guess my sign says it all. 67.9% of the voters in 2016 voted to pass a bond to purchase the Belmont building as the new home of our library. We did not vote to put an expanded liquor store or food court in that space. And don't say the voters didn't know what they were voting for. It was advertised as the Belmont building, even though the word Belmont did not appear on the actual ballot. The bond attorney, I believe his name was Ferraro, opined that the bond was location-specific, the Belmont building. 5,109 registered voters approved the bond. But Mr. Mannix, Ms. Lawler, and Mr. Lima feel they have the right to disregard the wishes of the people and to sell the building out from under us. Getting back to the voters and the arguments that have been used to discredit that vote, shame on those voters who say they didn't know what they were voting for. To them I say, an uneducated voter is a detriment to our society. Do your homework, people, before you enter the voting booth. To those who say that 5,109 voters is only 1/3 of the registered voters, I say, too bad more voters didn't vote. But non-votes don't count in elections. If you feel strongly about an issue, get out and vote. It's funny how, after the fact, People love to twist the results to support unsupportable speculations. Right here and now, let's label as trash talk and unfounded the argument that people who didn't vote were expressing a no vote. Do you know how ignorant that sounds? If such nonsense were logical, then others could use the argument that people who didn't vote were expressing a yes vote. Thank you.
Dr. Alba, and then you. After him. Dr. Alba, and then you. Oh.
Hi, Kevin Ryan, 3
Yes.
Roxbury Avenue. I would just like to remind you people, as I'm sure you're well aware, that a year from this November there is an election. And considering what's going on at the presidential level, I'm sure there's going to be a big turnout. And a lot of people will be inspired to get out there. Just don't forget, you 3 people, we only need to remove one of you from the board to flip this whole thing, and the deal will go on. Just remember that. So if you're trying to kill the deal, you've got like less than a year to do it, or barely a year to kill it.
Dr. Alba, and then Dr. Alba.
Nancy LaPasta Frazier, 71 West Bay Drive. When I saw this item on tonight's agenda, I immediately clicked on the link to view the summary. Imagine my surprise when, instead of a cogent, well-reasoned explanation for the sale, I was treated to a same old anti-library screed. How unhelpful, how unprofessional, how sad. So I came tonight hoping to see a professional presentation that would explain this potential sale. Again, I was disappointed. Your desire to keep the residents of Narragansett in the dark about this transaction is mind-boggling and, frankly, cowardly. Jesse has provided more information in his brief remarks than Mr. Mannix has, even though it's his motion. I have a couple of questions which I had hoped would have been answered. Since they haven't, I'll just ask them now, and I don't expect an answer. First, what professionals, outside of local town employees or council members, were used in negotiating this sale? When will the citizens of Narragansett hear from them? Does any professional documentation exist outside of the purchase and sale agreement? Now, I'm neither a lawyer or a real estate expert, so I had a little bit of trouble reading the purchase and sales agreement. Some items confused me. For example, the agreement mentions that the HVAC system for Pier Liquors is not located within the property they will be purchasing. The purchase agreement grants them access into the other part of the building to Pier Liquors for HVAC repair and replacement. This leads to some interesting points. Gilbane owned that entire building and rented it to 2 businesses, but it was run as a single entity, a single building. They then sold the entire building, one building, to Narragansett, which now seeks to split the building into 2 separate parcels. My question, is this an illegal subdivision? Does this mean I can sell my dining room to someone from Connecticut as a summer home as long as I grant them access to the plumbing? Frankly, this is a premature motion. We don't have enough information. The new owners are not present tonight to discuss their plans, and shouldn't the abutters have their day at a public hearing to discuss a potential doubling of a liquor store? As an aside, I am disappointed by Mr. Lima's remarks. Apparently, he cares more about one single business than the children, the young families, and the seniors of Narragansett.
Ms. Masterson.
Good evening. Ann Masterson, 9 Huron Avenue.
I am opposed to the sale of the Pier Liquor property with the adjoining upstairs area. I have 4 points to make tonight. One is financial wisdom. Years ago, when this process started, because our current library facility did not meet state standards, the figures showed that the most expensive option for an updated library would be to start from scratch and build a new building. The second most expensive would be to update the current facility. And the third option would be to relocate to the Belmont Market building. The former town council chose the most economical option and purchased the Belmont and Pier Liquor building. Under this option, the state would reimburse the town for up to 40% of the cost. The town would still own the current Maury Lungin's library building, with the ability to rent or sell this prime property in Narragansett Pier. Of course, delaying progress only continues to add to the cost. My second point is trust. One concern I heard frequently about the Belmont location was that we would be dealing with Gilbane, a company that about 50 years ago did not deliver what the town expected. Some town council members did not want to do business with Gilbane. But now we hear from the disclosure in the paper that we're willing to turn over the center of our town to an unknown, out-of-state developer. Why are we trusting an unknown entity to care about our town? Once sold, that developer can do whatever he or she chooses should his or her proposed venture fail. Why are you trusting an out-of-state developer over the Maury Lungin's Library Board of Trustees, who only want an updated, modern library? What is Plan B? Through this whole saga, we have never been arguing over Plan A versus Plan B versus Plan C, etc. You have not engaged in planning for a new library, but have just focused on dismantling the plan that the former town council initiated. What are Narragansett residents, visitors, and neighbors supposed to do when you sell the Belmont property, along with Pier Liquors, and the state shuts down the Maury Lungin's library because of lack of compliance? What's the plan? I've not heard a well-thought-out, vetted plan with any financial accountability. And my last point is we have wonderful volunteers for us, for the town of Narragansett. The Library Board of Trustees, the Friends of the Library, the Love Your Library Coalition are dedicated volunteers who advocate.
Thank you.
I haven't spoken on this.
I know. But volunteers, yeah.
Advocating for a community institution, the library, that is 100% inclusive. The proposed library is a space that services so many residents and visitors without concern for their station in life. How will the needs of our community continue to be met? Why are you at war with well-intentioned library supporters? In the words of Nancy DiNuccio, we are talking about a library, not a strip club. Thank you for listening to me, and I want you to think about your legacy in the town of Narragansett.
Thank you. Dr. Alba.
Thank you, Dr. Alba, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace, Narragansett. When we had the meeting, when it was announced that the Murray family will be making a pledge of $500,000, I was taken aback when that motion wasn't.
Do you want to talk to the Pier Liquors, please?
Yes, okay. So So it was brought up today several times that we don't have enough money to fund this larger library project. But we're not considering the monies that are coming in from people who want to make generous donations. Also, by selling out this property to this liquor store, it's making it much more difficult for us to have that library be a reality, because we're going to be cut back on OLIS funding, as Councilman Pugh brought out. In addition, it's going to be, it is a liquor store. Even though I'm into small business, it's a liquor store. It's not a art museum. So if we want to have a library, it's nice to not have it next to a full, huge liquor store. It's just, it could be problematic, okay? I'm all into helping small businesses, but it looks as though we're looking into negotiating with the company in Connecticut to make it a multiple food mart. It's been on the internet all over the place that you guys are trying to make this here a food court of some type. So it's pretty scary that you keep chipping away, having these executive sessions, and it's like the only objective is to squash a project which the library board has worked over 10 years in planning with many previous town councils. So I'm just puzzled. I'm totally puzzled why you're so bent on trying to eliminate a library which, as was brought up by so many people, ignorance is costly. But giving people education, giving people a place where they can have a community, that's priceless. That's priceless. So we can't always think about money. Let's think about, I work at the state prison. I see what happened when people become addicted to alcohol, okay? But one of the things I do find about in prison, inmates, they can grab books and they can have vicarious experiences by escaping the prison walls, by reading books. They can educate themselves, they can get college degrees, they can better themselves. So education is so valuable, you cannot put a price tag on it. So, I know you want to try to help this small business out, but let's look at the overall community. Let's look at helping everyone in our community. Thank you.
Mr. Shields.
Thank you. Robert Shields, 37 Earls Court. I think this meeting amply demonstrates what pro-library people have been thinking for over a year now. And that is that being an executive session is not a satisfactory other solution than being transparent and open to the public. Many of the points I was planning to make have already been discussed, and I want to say that I agree completely with Murray's and Pugh's comments on the library, and I won't dwell on them again, except that it actually calls into question Mr. Mannix's actually ability to properly carry out due diligence in the writing of an agreement, because he used the wrong lot number. So that's...
I think that was clarified that was wrong, so...
I think it calls into question your ability. Now, let me go to what was my original objection, and that is that the library has had absolutely no say in the writing of this agreement, and it should have. In fact, this agreement severely compromises use of this building by the library. No such agreement should have been written without the participation of all legitimate stakeholders, not just your people that you've been dealing with in executive session. The proper solution would be to include at least the library
the town council, the community development department of the town, who should have had a say in such major projects as defined, for example, by the town's comprehensive plan. Other stakeholders should at least have been invited to these meetings, and that would include library patrons, such as Love Your Library, donors who have publicly pledged a funding commitment, and maybe the town engineering department for their expertise. I would strongly recommend that legal experts be at hand to review the findings of this committee, which is an example of how open this committee should have been. Inclusion of stakeholders is one of the guidelines that OLAS requires on library expansion projects. It's not just optional, it's required.
Thank you.
The victim of this process is public transparency. Mr. Mannix, we've just given you several justifications to pull out of this enabling motion.
Mr. Shields, thank you. Thank you.
Their requests. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Elizabeth McCartan, 19 Elm Avenue. I've come to many of these meetings and listened and watched and thought and researched and been kind of disappointed every time, but understand this is the process. There's a majority. I see people in my community getting kind of toxic and ugly, and I hate seeing that. I like the idea somebody just had about a negotiation, but that's beside the point of this motion. When I saw in the paper, or I think it was online, that this was coming up, it felt like it was like really soon. Like, I didn't know that was an option that was going on. It seems like a really big step to take without having more thought. Like, I've heard 4 better ideas tonight. And so I just implore you, as my representatives, to take heed, and maybe there's a better way to make it, we could all just come out of this better and more whole. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Glazer, and then Stanley. Okay.
Thank you, Matt. Steve Glazer, 6 Pier Marketplace. First, an observation. Mr. Lima and Matt, you talked about an angry mob. You talked about...
You can address me.
You talked about an angry mob, and you talked about voters that didn't come out to vote. That's the silent majority. The last 2 people who thought there was a silent majority, one resigned under an embarrassing situation, and the other one got impeached. That's Nixon and Agnew, maybe a little before your time. You cannot count on a silent majority. If they really were interested, they'd be here. Second, I'm not going to take a position on this, but I really have to ask you, this has to be done better. You have to deal with each other in a better way. You have to take the meanness out of it. You have to take the name calling out of it. You have to deal with each other. You know, Patrick may have a good idea, and Ricky, you may have a terrific alternative. There's no talking. There's no debating it. There's no trying to work it out together. And it's embarrassing. Somebody mentioned a stain on the town, but that's the stain. Thank you.
Thank you. Stanley, and then you. Stanley, and then, yeah.
Stan Wojciechowski, Narragansett. I'm going to support you on this effort. I think this is a step in the right direction. You know, to me, we got to look at cost. And renovating a Belmont building, that big Belmont building, it seems to be a lot more costly than renovating the existing building. adding 3 activity rooms on the front end of the existing library, I think would satisfy their needs. When they have activities, they need a larger room. Put the 3 extra rooms out on the front lawn, and if that's not enough, we can go to the community center or to the auditoriums. There's a lot of choices that are available if we look at cost as a consideration. And I know they say, oh, it's going to cost more to renovate, but it looks like, just based on size, you're going to renovate this Belmont with all the trusses and all. It just seems like a monstrous problem, much more expensive than adding on to the existing building. So cost, that's what I find in government, and I get upset about. Cost, let's look at the cost of it and get a number maybe that's more closely real here. Let's find out how much to put 3 large rooms on that front lawn and see how much that costs. Give me a number. Give me a number and prove that I'm wrong, and then we can move on with all this fighting. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Lillian Larkin, 11 Pocono Road, Narragansett, Rhode Island. This has all been a very long tale, a tale of 2 libraries. And what I have not heard discussed is why we're not selling the present library. I emailed you, you never got back to me. We hear a lot about selling the Belmont building, but the better alternative would be to sell the old library. I've not had an answer. Could we discuss that, please?
Please make your comment as to why you think that's a good idea.
That was my question.
Yeah, what's your comment to why that's a better idea?
There's been no discussion as to why the new library is always being discussed as being sold, but there's never a discussion on why the present library is not being sold. Why has that never come out in the discussions?
Explain to us why that's a good idea. Make your case.
Why is it a good idea? Because everybody would be happy. You would not have an angry mom. It would be beneficial financially because all the money would be given. You have donors, you have bond money, everything is there. If you sell the old library, you almost give the town a free library. So I would like that addressed. It's never been come up. It seems to be a very logical, simple solution.
Thank you. Yes.
Mary Nato, 10 2nd Street, Narragansett. First of all, I wanted to make sure everyone in the room understands that in our democracy in Narragansett, that the town council is supposed to work for the people and represent the people. And we did vote for the library building, and part of which is the building that you're proposing to sell. I think that we could work something out where we rent the current space to them and we keep the other piece of the library that we need. We should work on a purchase, either a sale or a rental for that. And the other thing I really wanted to mention was, and we never released an RFP to know exactly what the cost of the building was. We should do that for the new library. But I was very disappointed when I read the agenda item and the backup. I worked for a big company for years, did all kinds of cost analysis, why there was no cost analysis from the finance director showing what we pay for the building, what the cost was to square feet, how much is it for the second floor, how much is the 3 parking spaces worth, and also that we haven't got any paperwork on a new appraised value. So I would like to suggest that we run the town more like a business in this case, and that we do our homework and do it correctly. But I do want us to keep the second floor for the library as we voted for. Thank you.
The finance director and the former finance director provided us with those numbers during our budget seasons, which we've talked about, which that's what we work off of in budget. We don't work off of people's opinions. That was the number, was $7.1 million in the last budget, and it was there was 1.3 in suggested donations and grants. This was what was in the, everyone can see it, and it was the 5.8 in borrowing. I just want to clarify. Thank you. No, thank you. I'm clarifying. That's the numbers.
Mary, you can
Susan,
go back
no,
to
she's done. Susan, there's.
Excuse me. We didn't.
Ma'am.
It's in the budget. You're not recognized. Go back to the budget. Thank you.
Let's go
No,
back.
it's not the budget, it's what you're trying to sell. The piece of property that you're selling, you should have a cost analysis, what you paid for it and what the appraised
Come on,
value
Sean.
is. So we know whether or not we're giving them a good deal or we're losing money.
Sit down.
Susan Amoruso, West Bay Drive. I agree with Mary that, yes, we need a cost analysis. I am opposed to not so much selling the liquor store. I think a lease would be better, but I am opposed to adding any additional square footage. If they want to buy what they have now, leave the other space intact, that's what it should be. And I don't know what the driving force was. And one of the problems is executive session. And I am extremely disappointed to hear that executive session is not that sealed. I mean, I had heard rumors and stuff like that about one person on the town council who was speaking in a public place well within earshot of all these people about someone
Can
from
we
another
stick to the motion?
Well, this is part of the motion because this sale was handled in executive session. There is no real estate company with it. There is no, we're comparing apples to oranges. We make it sound like in the motion, like this is the best thing since sliced bread. It's not equal, and we don't have all those facts. And we should have had our financial analysts up on the screen so we could actually see what you're saying is true. I don't think it's true, and that's why we've only got the Narragansett Town Council up there. But I think that you really need, if it's executive session, then there should have been no discussion of anything with the Narragansett Times. I don't think it should be talked about at a deli counter about other sales. If we're going to stick to the rules, we stick to it. And I think we need professional appraisal, commercial. And it just seems unreal that this whole thing is shrouded in secrecy. It should not be. So I'm opposed to this sale. I'm in favor of the lease. I think the lease is very workable. When there was talk about picketing the liquor store, I personally was not for it. I feel that, you know, this is not something new that no other library does. Libraries in Chicago, actually, the new ones, the new branches are being built with rental space underneath. And why? Because it helps pay for the library. They are actually making money by renting a portion of their building. It's the first floor. There's one on Taylor Street in the Tri-Taylor district, and it's a fantastic library. It replaces, it looks like the situation we have here, the old library and then what we could have. So this has been done, and I'm sure that's not the only case. So if we're really trying to help the taxpayers, if we're really trying to save money, then we wouldn't turn down grants, we wouldn't turn down matching funds, we wouldn't turn down OLAS, we just wouldn't be doing this. This is not a good financial deal.
Thank you.
Lori Kelly, Wildfield Farm Road. We obviously, library supporters, oppose selling anything and renegotiating this deal, and particularly need to speak about the executive session. On January 14th, there was a library workshop with this current council, not a prior council, this exact council. And Matt, you said, I'll start on that. I think that it brings in money for us, the liquor store, so I think we should probably leave it alone, at least for the next 2 years. That would be my thought process, since it brings in $60,000 a year to defray our cost. Then, 13 executive sessions later, you go to the press and you say, we've decided to sell it. I would agree with Bob Shields that perhaps, and not just the library, but this should have been brought forward for other people's ideas. This is the opposite of speaking to the stakeholders and the opposite of fiscal responsibility. If this is the best price, why are we afraid to show that we're selling this piece of property and ask other people what they would bid for it? Why does it happen behind closed doors? Jill, in December of 2018, so again, this council, you said, do I want to sell this building? No, I do not. And yet, January 22nd, you moved to sell the building. So when you talk about who we elected and who only Matt Mannix said he would repeal the deal. No one else said that. And Ricky, again, in the OLIS meeting of January 14th, Karen Meller was here. You were all able to
Are you going to
quiz her.
focus on the Pier Liquors portion of this?
Yes, Pier Liquors, and actually the second floor, which was always part of the library deal. And that's what I'm speaking to. And
So
I think
let's speak
Mr.
to that.
Vangermeer spoke about a lot of things, and so did Stanley. But I guess they're allowed to. But yes, when
I think I've given a lot of leeway. I've given a lot of leeway to people with
able to get OLIS grants for our current building when in January 14th, and it was taped, and everyone can review it, she said OLIS would not be interested in renovating our current 9,000 square feet. And for the people that mentioned, we are under waivers. That means we do not have enough physical space. We have 15,000 people in this town. The children's room accommodates 15 people. You don't have to have a specific square footage to know that is insufficient. And it's not a more modest proposal because when you go to 20,000 square feet, it's not a $400,000 bond or a $700,000 bond. It was 7.5 when you, Matt Mannix, the president of the prior council, directed us to look at this deal.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
All right, if there's no, is there any, yes.
Ellen Koima, 109 Westmoreland Street. So this property we're talking about is urban development, right? The renewal program. Well, do you know what happened 50 years ago this summer? June 26, 1969, the people of Narragansett voted for urban redevelopment. I think some people here or their parents may have regretted that vote. There was some time later, and after that the town council sold about 28 acres to a developer. Let me repeat that. The town council sold the land. So it belonged to this developer for many, many years. In 2016, a bond was put forth before the people that they could buy a portion of it, a portion for a building that everybody in the town could use, and it would be for free. Yes, tax money was a part of it,
Can you
but
please
there
stay
would be
on topic?
I am talking to the motion, Jill.
No, you're not. You're talking about Gilbane. You're talking about
I am
theory.
talking
Talk about the
about-
sale of the liquor store,
I am
please.
talking about Pure Liquors, Jill. That building is a part of urban development. I'm talking about it. Okay? Let me get to my point, and you're taking up 20 seconds of my time. Okay? You interrupted me. Okay, this was in 2016, the Belmont building was put to a bond. The people approved it, and they agreed that we would buy it. And like I said, everybody got to use it. It wasn't just for one particular segment of the population. So then, during that time, and let me just refresh my memory, Jill. How did you get re-elected? You remember you stood in the library to a full room and said you were for the Belmont building?
Staying on the point.
I'm doing it. So let me go on. Then, in 2018.
It's amazing, really, is what it is.
I think I'm speaking to the motion, Matt. I'm talking about the liquor store. I'm talking about urban development. They negotiated a better deal. Yes, they did. Patrick Murray, Susan Bonanno, and Mike Moretti negotiated a better deal. Remember, you said you would be, I have the notes here, you would be for the Belmont building. It'd be a much better deal if we could get the land underneath. And that's exactly what they got. Plus, they got the liquor store and 59 places, or parking spots, you know? And then, so now, they buy it in 2018, and then again, both of you on the right said that you were for the library. And Matt, you know what I have here?
Again, the campaign.
I'm here. This you got. Okay, I won't do that then.
We've had the campaign. We campaigned. I had my position, and I guess back to being closed-minded, gossip mongering. I said my position. Repeal the deal.
Matt, I'm showing.
You can boo all you want. I said my position. I was very transparent in the campaign.
Don't forget narcissistic.
I mean, this is. Do you think you people are persuasive to the people at home with this? Because you're not. You're not. You're not.
Okay, so I have your ad here, Matt. Do you see what it says at the top? Preserve Narragansett residential character and small town values. Well, expanding a liquor store, well, I don't know. Then you said keep taxes low. I'm not up to date on that one. But the last one is what I want to emphasize. Represent all of Narragansett town people, not special interest. I do think you're representing all of Narragansett. Oh, that's right. You represent the people who don't vote.
Right?
I've
never said that. So don't, again, all right, your time's up anyway.
Well, I got one last
up.
statement.
No, your time's up.
So we're talking about...
Time is up.
Okay.
Your time is
liquor store belongs to
Your
the
time's
people
up.
of Narragansett.
Ma'am, you can
It
hand your...
belongs to the Narragansett people.
Ma'am, excuse me.
It belongs to the people...
Ma'am, excuse me. Give your list to someone else to read for you, okay? Give your list to someone else to read for you. They can finish your thought for you. Pass it to your friend.
Sorry. Just a floor. Sad. Yeah.
My name, excuse me. My name is Dan Wheeler, and I live at 125 Kingstown Road. And I'm a big fan of Pier Liquors. I'm in there almost every week. And I like the staff, and I think it would be great if they're able to either purchase or get a long-term lease on the location where their current business is. However, I can't imagine any business owner taking the risk of making an offer for any part of that building that was supposed to be part of the library. Because if in any way Pier Liquors reduces through their offer and purchase is reducing the amount of state money that we're going to be able to get, then I'm never walking in the door again. And I think there'll be a lot of people that will never walk in their door again. And I think that a business doing something like that is just not going to survive. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Philip Cody, 109 Westmoreland Street, Narragansett. Point of order. I have several statements to make, but they don't directly concern the sale of the liquor store. Would you rather I go back and sit down and come back at open forum, or are you going to take your medicine right now?
You put whatever's for Pier Liquor now, and you can come at public comment with the rest of it. But if it's not about Pier Liquor's motion.
It is in the same sense that that second floor of in the proposed sale, the second floor that over that liquor store was supposed to be part of the library. You grant me that leeway, I'll go. Otherwise, I'll sit down and I'll be back in 3 minutes after you take your silly vote, which we all know how it's going to turn out anyway. What would you like?
Thank you, we got your point.
What would you like me to do? Go on with my
I
statement?
don't understand the problem. What's the problem? Go ahead.
I don't want to be out of order. I don't want you interrupting as I'm making my statement.
I've given people pretty wide berth. I mean,
Okay.
so
Then-
go ahead.
then here we go. Thank you.
We'll start you over. Go ahead.
Thank you. So,
I don't.
Matthew, you are correct. You have been forthcoming about your anti-library stance all along. We all know that. It's not a secret. However, you organized a little syndicate of cronies, people seated to your left, to countermand the will of the voters, and I think you're somewhat dismayed at the amount of pushback that you've gotten from us. You thought you could just roll this by and that we would eventually go away. Guess not. You were wrong. We're still here, and we're still going to fight. As a reminder, the town council serves at our pleasure. We elected you. You're supposed to represent us. You three have failed miserably to listen to your constituency and have brushed us aside dismissively as an angry mob. Mr. Mannix, Ms. Lawler, and Mr. Lima, you should be ashamed of yourselves. Your behavior, and under your watch, Mr. Mannix, and note that I didn't use the word leadership, there have been a rash of resignations in our town. These include a town clerk, a town manager, an acting town manager, a town engineer, and a town treasurer. Who are you kidding? Backroom deals. No assessment of the building. Refusal to thank a potential donor for $500,000. I mean, really? This is Machiavellian maneuvering at its worst. We're fed up. We see through it. We get it. You're a brilliant strategist, but you're not representing us. I'm convinced that you're going to attempt to shift blame from yourself to someone else, the library board, Love Your Library Coalition, Friends of the Library, or even these two people seated to your left. I have news for you. You will wear this. The electorate in this town will not forget who you are and what you've done. I find it interesting that some people in this town still blame a large construction company, Gilbane, for something that happened 50 years ago in the 60s and 70s. Those same people would be unable to name the members of the town council who were responsible for the backroom deal at that time. This time around, we will not forget you. You will wear the scarlet letter. You guys own this. Your incompetence is exceeded only by your vindictive natures. You should learn from modern local history. In 2018, the town of Situate voted out 3 independent men.
Your time's up, sir. Thank you.
Remember that an angry mob
Thank you.
can also be considered an educated group of concerned voters.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Yes.
Hi, my name is Anita Langer, 241 Colonel John Gardner Road. I just want to, I am a realtor in town, and I've been working at it for over 20 years. Prior to that, I worked 25 years as a speech pathologist in the Narragansett school system. I think people know me quite well. From what I understand, you just got an offer this evening. So you now have, you're in a multiple offer situation. Why would you not consider both offers unless it's a backroom deal? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Paul Zonfrillo, 7 Wynwood Circle. I think this is a great deal for the town. So the chuckling behind me, that's why people don't come here, right? That's right, because we get heckled. It's a great deal for the town because the town should not be in any business besides the town business. And owning a liquor store, and by the way, love the semantic splitting you all do out there. Owning that property and renting it out is no business the town should be in. We couldn't even manage renting out the kayak center without getting sued. So it's a good deal for the town. It's good to preserve Pier Liquors. And, you know, I see a lot of signs out there that say shame. I mean, shame on the folks that are heckling the people that come up here and have a different opinion. And as far as the appraisal goes, you know, that's a red herring. We got a decent offer, and that was, excuse me, I'm speaking. Please don't interrupt me. That was a decent offer that we got. We're not going to lose money on the deal. Mr. Murray's a realtor. He certainly could have asked one of his friends what they thought about the appraisal if he thought it was appropriate. I think that Jesse and Patrick are trying to kill the deal. That's why they come up with these motions. In fact, the deal is dead. The library's not going over there. So I don't know why there's all these. It's been declared that the building's going to be sold. So it's time to move beyond that and come up with Plan B. It's going to be a liquor store. It's a good deal for the town, and it's good for us to get out of that business. And I hope that the community can come together, because it's no fun being divided like this. I think that Matt, Jill, and Ricky have been viciously smeared. That's right. It's hilarious, isn't it? And Patrick, I think you and Jesse are just loving to throw all that fuel on the fire. You know, you guys are the ones that have failed to make a deal. The library board has failed to make a deal and make this happen. It's real easy to get up and grandstand and yell and scream, but you guys failed at your leadership to make it happen. And so that's all there is to it.
Thank you.
For the record, we tried a mediator. We would only use so much of the bond. I've tried negotiating with the council president. He doesn't want to hear a thing. The TC3 here doesn't want to hear anything. They at least 2 of them, you know, misrepresented himself before the election. After the election, there were promises made. Then come January 22nd, let's sell the building. If there's any misdirection, misinformation, and red herrings, it comes from these 3 and not me. I've been straight up. I've done everything I could to try to put this together.
All right, is there any other comment from the council? All right.
We're done with. Oh.
No.
What do you mean no?
She was removed previously.
Let her speak. Let her speak.
Well, you guys, if you want it, go ahead.
Give her 3 minutes. If she is incites.
Last time she spoke, she defamed somebody.
I think we're going to need an armed escort here.
I just came to say that the gentleman before me, is this on? Oh, they turned the mic off? Is it on? No, that I just think it's interesting. He said that you...
Name and address, please.
Yes. But I
Name and address, please.
Oh, Rosalind Sinclair.
Thank you very much.
Boston Neck Road.
Thank you.
Narragansett. That he accused these 2 wonderful men of yelling and screaming. Well, all they did really was give fact after fact after fact after fact. And I just want to bring out that fact. Thank you.
All right, is there any other comment from the council?
Sure. Is Win Haim still in the room here? No? All right.
He's right there.
Win. Mr. Hames, so you put an offer in informally tonight, $800,000. I do have a question about that offer. Would you be open to renting the space to Pier Liquor? If you would. So that would keep them in town and have that security that they're asking for. Okay.
May I speak?
Thanks, Win.
I mean, I don't know what's going on here. I mean, this is.
Well,
Bill, do you want to speak?
Yes, I
Okay,
do.
we're going to let Bill speak. This is the last speaker. I didn't see any other hands.
Well, we have a
We're going to-
verbal offer here, Matt.
So thank you.
We have a verbal offer.
All right. Yes, Mr. Bavona, go ahead.
I would like to point out that this deal would, first of all, not obtain the best price for the parcel you're selling. It would also decrease the value of the building that's attached to it considerably. You're not going to get a good price for that building that's next to it. So you're losing money from the town from both sides. I really think that this whole thing smells like it looks, an inside deal. I don't know what your connection is with this liquor store, but I'll tell you one thing. It looks like an inside deal. And if it looks like one and it smells like one, it probably is. If you think this is an easy way out, all of this testimony that's been taken and all the things that all of you have said is all recorded. And at some time, it can be dredged up, and somebody is going to make one hell of a big stink about this. And I can tell you, I've gotten comments from South Kingstown. What is going on in Narragansett? Thank you.
And is there any other comment from the council?
Yeah, so just to follow up, so we do have a verbal offer from someone in the crowd. Who knows about the seriousness or the financial qualifications of that? I don't know if you can speak again or not.
You've already spoken. All right.
No, if
Thank
he's
you.
got a question, I thought he had a question.
Well, I was just asking about if the Pier Liquor would
you.
continue to rent that space out. However, like I said, who knows about the financials and the seriousness of it, but the $65,000 more than what we're voting on here. It seems fiscally irresponsible to sell a building for less money than what you just got offered. So that development, I was going to vote against this anyway, but that development does complicate this matter, I think. So it's just something else to consider.
Maybe if we market the property, we'd get more money. That might be a good idea, but God forbid. Can't let anybody know we're trying to sell a building.
All right. All in favor? All in
Table
favor?
it.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
No.
No.
Motion approved,
Definitely
3-2. Our next item is item number 10, a motion to schedule a special town council meeting on August 26, 2019 at 7:30 p.m. to select a new town manager.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. So I'm going to ask for an amendment to this motion. I also want to make sure that everyone is available on that evening. That's why I'm putting it on here. If we could have that at 6 p.m. instead. Could I get a motion to amend it to 6 if that works
Second.
for people? Is there a motion?
I'll move that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Terry, you got that? All right. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Next is the open forum. Please conduct yourselves in an orderly and respectful fashion, and please keep comments limited to 3 minutes. Is there anyone who would like to speak during public forum? Mr. DiStefano.
Thank you. You already have my address. Several things are stunning.
We're just going to wait a minute till people leave.
We're going to wait? Okay. Okay?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, several things are beyond stunning to me. Violating the your secret meetings law, executive session, by going directly to the press. And also, you've got an offer, I know it's done now, but you've got an offer higher than the offer that the three of you just voted for. I mean, you people are open to more legal suits for what you're doing. How could you sell our property for less than what it's worth? Win Hames is a prominent businessman. He made a valid offer, and he'll close within 72 hours. How do you do that? I mean, without exposing, I hope you own your own homes. I know Matthew doesn't, as far as I know. So you're more at risk. So good luck. I hope you, well, I won't even say it, but you know what I hope for. It's so obvious what you're doing. Secret meetings under the cloak of executive sessions until Matt wants to talk to the Narragansett Times. Then it's all open. And these two have kept their probity, their ethics. They didn't say a word about anything. And you're speaking to a newspaper about your secret deal that was under the cloak of executive session. And now you got an offer higher than what you had, this pre-made deal that you made in secret session. You got a higher offer from a prominent local businessman who's been here forever, and you don't accept it, and you're not opening yourself to malfeasance, misfeasance, every possible lawsuit possible. I hope you have tons of insurance, and I hope you own your own homes. I hope you're exposed for what
That's
you've
very
done to
kind,
the
Ted.
town.
That's very kind.
Yes, what you're doing.
very kind. Thank
I
you.
am very kind.
You're very kind. It's a
May
political
I finish?
disagreement. Very kind.
You're taking
very
my,
kind.
You're taking my time,
Very kind.
Mr.
Oh,
Charitable person.
Very kind.
Would you stop taking my time, please?
Would you stop attacking people personally? You're supposed to. Did you read what happens at public forum? Don't attack people personally. Don't wish ill on them. Maybe you should. You're way out of line of the rules of open forum. Way out of line.
Okay.
Way out of line.
All right, so I can talk about
Way out of line.
the potential legal liability that is so obvious, breaking the rules for executive session. I'm not being out of line. Opening yourself to lawsuits. It's stunning what you've done. You've created a mini dictatorship, and I hope it ends next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Carleen Town, 240 Wood Hill Road. There is not much on which Mr. Mannix and I agree, except for this. We both hope the people who aren't here tonight are watching at home. I don't know about Mr. Mannix, but I also hope you all go back and watch prior town council meetings to see just how inconsistent Mr. Mannix, Miss Lawler, and Mr. Lima are. For instance, at the last meeting, Stanley, Richard, and Mr. Brady were all allowed to go way off topic on motions and weren't reprimanded by Miss Lawler. But Gloria Roman, a library supporter, was right on topic and was interrupted constantly by Miss Lawler as being off topic. Mr. Brady presented one false statement after another, like the misfact that the library board produced and sold the Love Your Library signs. The library board had nothing to do with the buying and selling of the signs, just as none of the board collected signatures on any of the petitions. But when asked if he could continue his diatribe, Mr. Mannix said to Mr. Brady, "You're fine, go ahead." He never once corrected Mr. Brady's false statements, but after Meg Rogers presented actual facts, he rebutted with, "Lies get told and they're not true." You want to talk inconsistency? When a library supporter asks a question, as Mrs. DeLeo did at the last session, Mr. Mannix says, "You people don't care about procedures. This is not a question and answer session." But Mr. Mannix answered every question put forward by Mr. Kavanaugh. Mr. Mannix admonishes us to refrain from personal accusations. This is all on tape, people. I'm not making it up. And to show a little decorum. But he accused Mr. Murray, when Patrick made the motion to get an appraisal on the building, of throwing out the motion without doing his homework, his research, to which he added, "That's how you do things." Now, if that's not a personal accusation, I don't know what is. Jesse and Patrick tried to put forward reasonable, logical motions, like getting an appraisal on the building, only to have Mannix, Lawler, and Lima thwart every effort, oftentimes with snide remarks by Miss Lawler like, "You're spinning it around. You want some political theater. You want Facebook likes." I could go on, but let me finish with how Mr. Mannix shows respect for the members of the audience. At the last meeting, when it came to open forum, Mr. Mannix said, "Please conduct yourselves in an orderly and respectful fashion. I know that will be difficult for you."
Thank you.
People, it's not three. People of
Yeah, it is.
Narragansett,
It's
are
three
these
child.
the people
Thank
you
you.
want representing you and making decisions for our beautiful town? I know I don't.
Ms. Fortin, Stanley, and then Gloria.
Okay, I just want to remind the taxpayers and those that are listening at home, there was an $800,000 offer for the same deal that this council voted 3-2 for $735,000. And also, it was never, this is not a good deal. The town has now lost almost $2,700 on prime real estate.
Yes, I see a lot of love signs throughout the town. Stan Wojciechowski, Narragansett.
Thank you.
I see a lot of love signs, and therefore I want to build on that, and I want to say I love all five of you, and not just one, not just two. I love all five of you. You have an opinion, and you express an opinion, and you have some drive. You exhibit a sincere interest to do the right thing. All five of you. And I will do my best to get you all back here next time around. We have a difference of opinion, and that happens. I can't even get my 5 children to agree. Nobody can get 5 people to agree. It's almost impossible. It takes a lot of effort, and I know you've tried, and it's working as it should. We have opinions, and we had reasons for them, and we follow through. And that's what I like. You follow through on your message and on your ideas, and you continue to move forward. That's number one. And of course, number two, cost. When I hear cost to the taxpayers is being considered, that I love also. I haven't heard that in 25 years, where you are so firm on cost to the taxpayers. That's never been a sincere effort in the past. Now, I don't know the cost effectiveness on this. I'm not a genius on finance, but at least we're operating in the idea where we're considering cost, and cost is out there. So I'm glad that's a factor in here. So I hope this plays out, and we eventually do the right thing based on cost, and I hope to see you 5 again. I love you all, okay?
Gloria.
Gloria Roman, 33 Wheatfield Cove Road, Narragansett. So, Mr. Mannix, Ms. Lawler, and Mr. Lima, you constantly say that you are fiscally responsible. The $735,000 price on the 6,000 square feet and the 12 parking spaces is well under the value. We had Mr. Hames offer $800,000, yet you would not even consider it. So where is your fiscal responsibility? Mr. Mannix, you all often call the Library Board of Trustees one brain with many bodies. But this deal that you have done shows that Mr. Mannix, Ms. Lawler, and Mr. Lima are three bodies without any brains. Thank you.
Yes.
Stephen Bellis, Baldwin Court. I'd just like to say how generous of Stanley. He's in love with the town council. The last town council, he wasn't up here. He wasn't in love with the town council. Now that things have gone Stanley's way, who doesn't want to pay for anything that doesn't affect him? He's just in love with this whole town council. And how disingenuous.
Let's focus. Let's not use attacks on others.
I'm not attacking. I'm just saying.
I mean, no one's
it's pretty
attacked you. Who's attacked you in this process? Has anyone attacked you in this process? But yet you're free to attack people.
I'm not
It's
attacking.
interesting.
I'm pointing things out. And it's still like a conflict of interest. But that's disingenuous, what you just heard over there. Because this silent majority that we're hearing about, why they're not here tonight, they'll be here. Believe me, they're just not here tonight because they're afraid to show their faces. They're ashamed of what they represent. Because the next issue up here is going to be taxes and other issues on the item. They'll be here in force. Okay? So I don't buy Stanley's spiel over here that he's in love with everybody. Okay? Also, I got to say that these meetings are more entertaining than Netflix. Okay? So if anybody out there is watching, I encourage you all to come to these town meetings, whether you're for or against. But show up, and I hope you will support the library.
Is there anyone else? Susan, Paul, Eileen, Patrick, right?
Susan Amoruso, West Bay Drive. I'm just amazed that somehow we think we're saving the town money. We turn down matching grants. We can't apply for Champlain grants, Rhode Island Foundation, because we're not up to specification for the library. And now we get a real estate offer on the table, so with the background that that person has, it's very reliable. But I don't know why that motion was not tabled. Why did it have to be acted on? Why didn't you investigate a better offer? This is the problem, and we don't get answers. So people get up here and they ask a question because, yes, you're supposed to speak your mind, but you're not getting answers any place along the line. I don't think you could justify that. And as far as conducting yourself in a good manner, I was just shocked. I'm thinking, you have another council member talking, Jesse. He's not finished. And you interrupt him, and it's not the first time you've talked over someone. I don't understand. You get your chance, let him finish, and then you can interpret the motion. And I was appalled by the language of that, by placing blame on Pat. It should be a cut and dry thing. There shouldn't be a motion. This shouldn't have been, oh, we're fixing a mistake or we're righting a wrong. It should be, we want to buy the building, or we're going to sell it, blah, blah, blah. But not this, oh, we're fixing it. Because, as I said, we didn't see any written proof that this is a good sale. You didn't put anything up on that screen to say, I'm making money for the taxpayers. And we own that building. I've said that before. We own it. We have every right to be here and to question. And we are not getting answers. There's nothing up there. I've been here where other things on the agenda have had nice cost analysis. I can't even talk. But anyhow, the cost numbers are up there. There's red ink, blue ink. It's just like it's all there. We haven't gotten that. Closed sessions, no appraiser, all these things. And you know, I'm part of a Facebook page called The Nice Squad, and it's a result of the Reader's Digest contest, where people who nominated people who were state winners, so there's 50 of us that have been added to previous people. And I put out a picture and I said, because people have been asking how people are doing with the projects, and I said, people in Narragansett are still fighting for a library. And when I see the comments that came back about, well, we're expanding our library, or we just got this for our library is the heart of our town. It's embarrassing. I can't write that. I'm saying we are still fighting.
Thank you.
Paul Zonfrillo, 7 Windward Circle. I just want to say it was the fiscally responsible thing to pass this, because a verbal offer in a public space is really different than a signed purchase and sale agreement. And if the council had not voted on it, then Pier Liquor could have withdrawn the agreement. So, Mr. Hames, you're a little late. And it's a bit of a stunt, right? Because if you were really sincere, would have perhaps contacted the solicitor last week, made a signed purchase and sale agreement. Coming in at the 11th hour, you're risking the whole deal. So it was the fiscally responsible thing to do, and it looks like it was designed to create a narrative rather than solve a problem. And that's why you don't have a library. More interested in creating narratives and jamming through what you want rather than actually getting the deal done. So with all due respect, you guys did the right thing, because a verbal offer isn't worth the paper it's written on.
Thank you. I've had Eileen, and then you can go.
Ellen Korma, 109 Westmoreland Street. I want to go where I was before, because I kept getting interrupted when I was speaking, and I went over my 3 minutes and had to sit down. But what I want to say is the property that you put up for sale tonight, or that you're going to sell, belongs to the people of Narragansett. And after almost 50 years, they finally own a piece of the pier again. And it became the appearance that this deal was shrouded in secrecy, and you have not been transparent. And you owe it to the taxpayers of Narragansett to put forward them what exactly you are doing. And it really is up to the people of Narragansett as to what is to be done with that building.
Yes, Wynn.
Wynn Hames, 30 Wood Avenue, Narragansett, Rhode Island. To Mr. Zonfarilla's point, first of all, I didn't know about the sale like a lot of people didn't until Friday. I read it in the paper. I've been away most of last week, and today I talked to numerous lawyers about trying to do something to look at this deal and see if this was a fair deal. There was a time window that I could not go and come back with a written offer like Mr. Zonfarilla would like. But it could have been possible if everything had been done up in the open. If negotiations were done in the open, if it had been advertised for sale, if there had been a appraisal on the building, then people can get involved. I've been in this town in business and owned property in this town for 50 years, okay? My offer is a genuine offer, okay, $800,000. I'm willing to come and give your town attorney a check tomorrow for whatever amount that's required to put the bid in. I'm also more than willing to provide him with financials to prove the offer is good. So you have the fiscal responsibility of saying, okay, let's investigate this. You can't jump forward and just sell like you just did. It's your fault that this offer comes in so late, because of your neglect in getting an appraisal, of advertising, and negotiating. So I will look forward to negotiating. I look forward to talking to the attorney, town clerk, town manager, anybody I have to, and so will my attorneys over the next few days. My offer is substantial, it's solid, and their money is there to back it up.
Patrick and then Lori. Yep.
Patrick Kavanaugh, Winterberry Road. Clearly, I've been to a whole bunch of these meetings, and people have not read the Constitution of the United States. A lot of the people in the audience. We are a representative government. We go to the polls, we elect folks to represent us, and then you folks at the state level, federal level, represent us. If people don't like those people, they can vote them out the next election. You don't get up here, call names, point fingers, threaten people on Facebook, threaten people on Twitter, go to the polls and vote somebody out. You don't come here and attack people's personal side of the house. Enough said on that. Ronald Reagan, who was my hero, political hero, said, "The freedom we enjoy carries with it a tremendous responsibility that good and decent people must never remain silent and inactive." Hence, I stand here. Today, if nobody has ever gone to the website usdebtclock.org, U.S. Treasury runs that site. As we stand here today, we're $22.5 trillion in debt. All of us. It took 240 years to go 10 trillion in debt. On 8 years of the Obama administration, 10 more trillion. 10 trillion added, which took 240 years. Unfunded liabilities for Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid is at $120 trillion. Our state has $12 billion in unfunded liabilities. The actuary stood here and said we're $70-ish million in the hole for OPEB, other post-employment benefits, and pensions. So we're $70 million in the hole, not including any other indebtedness that the town has, on top of the day-to-day operations. You all raised your hand when you were elected, as our state and our federal always seem to forget as well. Your number one responsibility to everybody is not to bend to people for whatever the issue is, library or whatever it is, to bend to people that show up with signs because they outnumber the other people. You have a fiduciary responsibility to every town member, whether they voted or didn't vote. So all I'm trying to say is the 3 minutes that I stood here, that young girl that stood here in high school, she and her future children and grandchildren are $7 million more in the hole. The 3 minutes I stood here, all of us. So right now we all stand about, we'd probably say about $70,000. If every single US citizen wrote a check out, we would only bring it up even today. So Ricky, I know I'm hitting my 3 minutes, but what you said is we always tell our children what we want, what we need, and what we can afford are three different things. We have libraries in the middle school, high school, elementary school, and we have that library down there. We have four. We need to do what we can afford to do, not necessarily what we want or what we think we can afford. So.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Oh, here we go.
Lori Kelly, Wildfield Farm Road. To the last speaker, we voted for it, we approved it. That's what we object to being disregarded as to what we voted for. There's lots of projects that we have approved at this town council level that no one voted for. And that's fine, because that's part of the business. But that's our objection. To Mr. Zonfrillo, never thought I'd have to say this, but yes, you pointed out to me, why didn't we put this deal together before? And we didn't really know what was up for sale, but I believe there were 2 people who emailed the town solicitor about the liquor store and the Belmont building. So I will be following up on that. Thanks for reminding me. This project started in 2008, and a major Rhode Island foundation, a consistent supporter of the Narragansett Library, advised us that it was increasingly difficult to support our application for aid in our current building. And since then, the last 4 years, we have been open on a waiver basis. At that time, the library board advertised and hired a library consultant to help us with this project of a new and better library to get state grant and aid. And let's say that again, we started on this project to get state grant and aid. We are one of 3 or 4 libraries who has never accepted state money. On this project, Karen Meller sat here in this room and said, I agree with the library board. This Belmont project, which included the upstairs, I would expect to see 43% reimbursement. So more than 2.3, which is our calculation. You say, Matt, that it's not a guarantee. Wow, it's a continuous program since 1965. You play by their rules, you hire a consultant that works with them, you follow the rules like any foundation or grant money, you submit your application, it comes back. Since 1965, everyone who has applied and been accepted has gotten it. Could the world, fall apart tomorrow? Absolutely. But to say here it is so disingenuous, there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee, that the federal government was going to give us the harbor master boat. But we went down with that, and guess what? They produced and gave us the boat for the Coast Guard station. The Belmont option was also the less costly option. When the current building renovation would have required closing down operations, loss of staff, no additional parking, and because of that, possibly no state grant and aid, even if we get to the 20,000 square feet. Our cost, by professional cost estimators and 2 architects who are involved in looking at our current building, was $7.5 to $7.75. So we looked at the more modest proposal. It ended up being more expensive. I think that when you want to dismantle this deal, you've made it very clear. You have defunded the library operating budget, which also does not allow us to ever apply for funding for renovation. But let's not be disingenuous about what you're doing here. You don't want a library. There is no $300,000 answer, and I just want to set the record straight. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion approved 5-0. Good night, everyone. Thank you.